We're a Kiwi couple living in Australia who brought a 57-foot steel trawler after she sunk in a flood and was pulled from the sea. We're now bringing her back to life. We're on to the finishing jobs after working on her for the last 6 years to refit and get her ready for launch as soon as possible. Brupeg is rebuilt by us with volunteers funded by Patreons and viewers, and we spend every cent we have to make sure that she's ready. She's fueled by veggie oil, diesel, solar and wind power to do research, projects and expeditions to remote places like Antarctica and the Northwest Passage. She'll be crewed by supporters from around the world. Welcome aboard. Welcome to Archaeology Brupeg. On this week's dig, we uncover a trawler. Under 6 years worth of building activity, we've figured out how much stuff we need to keep, where it's got to go, and start loading it into the engine room.
Across town, trying to get to you. I've been keeping my phone on no sound, facing you out, that's true. Now I get butterflies just thinking about your eyes, and that can't be all bad. Things came up, things went down, maybe turn back around. My spider sense screaming that I'm mad. A big storm blew up, a hurricane right in my coffee cup, carried me far, far away, and that's why I couldn't make it today to a coffee shop date. Some X-rated thoughts of what I'd like to do to you. So I guess I can see how bad it rhymes, playing you for a fool. So I pick up the phone, dial your number on the tone to set things straight.
Is this a little bit of stuff to go in the engine room?
It's actually surprisingly less than I thought it was going to be. I thought there'd be like this is only half of it, but I thought there'd be a lot more than this, you know. We've still got all downstairs to do, which is going to be...
Do you think this is half?
Oh, maybe not. Well, half of the... a third of the tools. I'm going to settle with 20% of all of the tools. With an asterisk at the end of that. These are the new fill filters down the end here for Brupeg. We're upgrading to larger filters so that we can have more volume through one bank. We'll do another bank. so we've got basically, so bank 1, bank 2, and then we've got a spare. And this is a spare because I dropped it and cracked the plastic bowl, so I ordered another one. That's why there's a slightly different colour. This is an old one that we got given yonks ago, but basically I'm keeping it as again as a spare, so backup spare. We've got a 7-inch polisher, keeping that because we will be using it in the future.
You mean we're actually going to tidy the hull?
One day, yeah. A raft of various pipes. Rightio, so various pipes. We've got spare sandblasting pipe, fuel pipe, drinking water pipe, air conditioning pipe. Various jobs in the next 6 to 12 months, so we're keeping all of that stuff on the boat. Then we've got our 3/4 drive socket set. We'll be keeping this and putting it into my toolbox. I'll buff all of this rust off, that'll come off easy. And I'm going to give this ratchet a service shortly, so I'll make a little holder for all of these inside my toolbox. Plasma cutter, the beast. Everyone's seen this thing in action, but that's going to be cleaned up and kept in the engine room. Then we've got a socket set, a blue point arranged in a various pattern, blue point socket set, so various deep drive sockets. We've got like Torx head type sockets. Yeah, a whole bunch of different options, and then under here, I can do it without tipping them out. You got all your extensions and power bars and stuff like that.
Are you keeping them in the containers, or are you going to do something?
This container's falling apart, so I'll probably try and put this into my toolbox. Then we've got Our friend John Limington donated these 2 pieces of gear. This is a gorgeous Blue Point torque wrench. This was amazing, thank you so much for this. Really, really gorgeous torque wrench. For people who don't know what a torque wrench is, it basically allows you to tighten a bolt to a very specific tightness, I suppose you could say. And it'll make a sound like click click when you get to that that tightness. So often mechanics, when they don't have a torque wrench, they'll just do it manually with a couple of ring spanners, and then they'll manually click click. Yeah, it's tight enough. Right. The latest addition to the family is a set of screwdrivers. These won't be long lasted. They'll be
No.
they're a consumable item on this boat.
Yeah, we go through them.
This is something we bought recently, but this is a crimping set for like basically you've got. Let's see if I can show you. This is for cables and things. So this is like a little hydraulic ram, and this thing here moves back and forward and crimps big cables. So if you're doing battery cables and things like that, so we can go down to small sizes like this, or right up to really big sizes like that. That's, you know, half of it there. So it means that we can do pretty much any cable size on the boat. Need to organise that. Brupeg bearings. These are the almost impossible to buy thrust bearings that we need for the anchor winch. So recently you saw us pull the anchor winch apart. We had 2 noisy bearings. Brupeg bearings. Dave Brooker, one of our Patreons, helped us get these bearings. These are really, really difficult to find imperial thrust bearings. So probably the last time we'll ever be able to replace these, because they're basically getting impossible to buy.
The name is not actually Brooker bearings. We've just named them Brooker bearings because he donated the money for them.
Yeah, these are officially our Brooker bearings.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a job that's coming up soon, is doing the anchor winch. These bearings, last time we priced them, were $360 each. And we didn't have the money, so we just didn't replace them because it just wasn't an option. Dave Brooker donated the money to get these, and thankfully we didn't have to pay $360 each. We found them in a shop that was basically a guy that buys end of run, you know, no longer made type bearings, a real random selection of hard to get bearing sizes and things. I think what did we pay, $190 each for them, I think, from memory. So awesome discount, but probably the last time we'll ever be able to buy these. Next in line is a beautiful gas set donated by Mark and Dawn. These guys popped up out of the blue and turned up with this and said, you know, I really want you guys to have a good gas set. Really amazing to have this on the boat.
It's one of those things you need the right gas for.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a selection of gases for, you know, welder and all of that.
Yeah.
Once we're hitting the water. This is going to come in amazingly handy. Oxy-torch.
Yeah, yeah, awesome for heating and removing like hard to get off parts, that sort of thing. You can cut, weld with it, you can do all sorts of stuff.
Great in an emergency.
It's plasma before they had plasma, basically.
Yep.
Next is our spare one grit sander. So this is our hammer drills. These things are like pretty brutal when it comes to ripping off paint and things like that. We don't use them often these days. We've done most of the hard work with these, but this is what it's essentially a jackhammer. This is what we use to rip off paint and things when
a needle gun just won't do it.
Yeah.
This is what we use.
Yep. So that's a spare. Air filter. So that's the filter for Brupeg's main engine.
It gives you a real sense of the size of this boat, eh?
Yeah, so air in, air out, and then that goes from there, goes off to the turbo. So we've got to mount that. I found this, God, I bought this about 5 years ago knowing I'd need it, and I've built the mounts to mount it. I just haven't bothered putting it on the engine yet, but I found this in some bloke's shed. He bought 5 of them for some reason, and then couldn't sell them, and I think I paid $50 for it or something like that. So I knew exactly what it was when I saw it. I just said, yeah, I'll grab that too. That's awesome, thank you.
And behind Dame there in the blue box,
yeah,
the magical blue box.
So for everybody that said we need a marine fuel pump, I give you a marine fuel pump. So this is going on Brupeg. This is a Cummins marine fuel pump.
This is what Adrian helped us source from Carl.
Yeah. In
Brisbane. Carl was the equivalent of Adrian for Cummins.
Yeah.
So a Cummins specialist.
So we've basically got a few things to do on the main engine. We've got to put a fuel pump on. Got to do a couple of. This is an inline dual fuel filter setup. We've got to mount that on the engine, run that. We also have from the same guy, we have a bunch of parts. So these bolts, this little shut-off valve for the fuel, this contraption for our coolant, rocker arms. Basically this box allows us to take a truck engine and convert it into a marine engine. So what it is basically, because our tanks are higher than the engine, this stops the injectors back feeding into the cylinder when the motor's off. These bolts are shorter than the bolts that hold the tappet covers on right now, and that allows us to take the jake brakes off. These are rocker arms that are slightly narrower, so the ones that are on the truck, on the engine now, are about this wide, and these are only about maybe 3/4 inch wide. That allows us to get rid of the jake brake rocker arms and put the normal marine engine rocker arms on, and then 4 bolts that are a specific size for to hold you know, various parts of the engine on that we need, as well as the most critical bit, these little guys. So these 3 plugs, they're basically like a cap screw, an Allen key type plug. If we don't have these, we won't have any oil pressure when we take the jake brakes off. The ones that are in there now are basically this, but they have a tiny hole going up the centre, and it feeds the jake brakes with oil. Obviously without jake brakes we don't need oil, so we need these to have oil pressure in the engine.
And basically Carl looked online at the channel, looked at the engine, eh?
Yeah, he watched a couple of videos.
And when you arrived, he did everything. Yeah. He said, oh, you're going to need that, you're going to need that, you're going to need to do that. It was
he watched I don't know, 3 or 4 videos or something of the engine, basically diagnosed the type, the model, everything about the engine. Like, he's awesome. He's obviously really smart when it comes to these motors, and knew exactly what we needed. Had it all pre-planned. Yeah, it was great.
So we'll get to all of this. So this is just some wires there. So this is the start of the stuff going into the engine bay. So
yeah,
it's going to add up.
Time to start loading it up.
But look, there's floor underneath you. There's deck. Oh my god.
Come up, things go down. Make it turn back around. My spider sense screaming that I'm mad. A big storm blew up. A hurricane right in my coffee cup. Carried me.
There's so many parts and tools that we have to have in the engine room to make sure that we can deal with any issues that arise on the boat. So as much as we'd like to take pretty much everything, we're not going to be able to. So we're going to go through now and decide what's the absolute priority and choose those. Dame has his eyes on 1 or 2 that he definitely wants to hold on to. So we'll include those. Thanks so much, Bruce. It's amazing to have this choice, and there's a lot more to go through yet. So we're at that stage where we're stripping the bottom of the boat. We're taking the tools that we're going to keep, we're putting them upstairs. If you look behind you, Dame, just show everyone the little system you've created. So this is our winch. We're winching tools up this way so we don't have to cart them up the stairs. So we'll do that. And what we will do is anything that we don't keep, we're going to donate. There's a place in town, I don't know if it's Australian only, but it's called the Men's Shed. Is that right, Dave? Yeah. And it's a space that men can go and build stuff, and they've got lathes and tools and things like that. And apparently you can go and donate tools and stuff you don't use there. So we'll do that on Monday. Hopefully we'll be ready.
They both look the same. Little tiny one.
How many of those do you need?
That one and that one, but I think one is a spare, and I just need to figure out if it works.
So Dame's just decided on 3 of the same thing, so I'm going to have to be the hard ass and say no.
There's 2 different sizes and a spare for one of them.
Let's just go through and choose, and then maybe there's a space for one more, and you can do a spare then.
Fair enough. Alright.
We can't afford the space for spares even, I'm afraid.
That's brand new, so we'll keep that. Air sander.
Okay, air sander.
Yeah. I currently don't have one that works, so we'll keep that. That's a 3/4 rattle gun.
That is so heavy.
Yeah.
My guess is he's thinking ballast. So this?
Yeah, definitely that, yeah. So not that. That's awesome sander, I'll keep that.
How many have we got of those, air sanders?
2 right now. Air riveter, that's an awesome tool if we're doing lots of riveting.
When are we doing lots of riveting?
I don't know.
Are you going to rivet some panels on the boat?
I could dress up like Rosie the Riveter and build a strata fortress with this.
You're not going to use a riveter?
Probably not.
Are you going to use a riveter for the dinghy?
No. Oh fine, I'm not going to use a riveter.
You know? Okay.
Okay.
It's beautiful, I'm sorry, it would be awesome, but someone else will use it and they'll need it.
That's a death ray, we definitely need that.
We definitely need the death ray.
That works, that's a goodie.
How many of those do you actually need, darling? You've got a big one in there and you've got another smaller one, or is this it? This is not the one.
I've got a few of the same size, but that's a good German one that I bought. And I've got one up the top.
So you've got 3?
Yes.
Do you really need 3 on a boat this size?
No, I'll probably keep that one. Because that's
So this
the best
big one,
I've got.
probably get rid of that big
No,
one?
no, they're 2 different sizes. Small, large. Like literally sockets.
I thought there's another large on top.
No, I've only... Oh yes, but it doesn't work. And I
So
need
you're getting rid of that?
Probably.
Do you know where it is?
If I can get it to work, I'm going to keep it. Because it's a really good brand.
So
and that's
get rid of
old,
that one.
And that's my backup. If I can't get that one working,
Right.
that's my backup.
So this is not the final
No,
hull.
that's not keeping that one. That's awesome because it's so small. Not using that. Using those.
It's almost like he needs moral support to let them go. It's really funny.
Do you want that? That's a sander, like a long. It'll go
It's too big.
for doing like long runs. Okay, fine.
If it was a shed on a property and it was a 3-car garage, sure, but we don't have the room.
Yeah, that looks lonely. So. Nibbler, if we're doing sheet metal. What's that? Oh, that's a tank level gauge. This is the. I'm going to keep that because I don't want it. This is the.
What is that?
I think it's like you put a hose on the end of it, and then you can put it into water, and it'll go and power the water out.
Oh, great! Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's
cool.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Literally is a wonder gun, blow and suction.
Excellent.
Tiny little needle gun thing. Ear drill.
I noticed there's been no discussion about this.
Yes. Of course, you wouldn't even discuss it.
So what is this?
An ear jack. So if anything happens where you need a lot of force, you could use this to like really push. You could probably lift the boat with this.
Yep, but how much distance do you get, and
I'd say you probably
when
get
would
it
we
that far.
use it?
Probably get it that far.
Yeah, so not far.
away, and that's why I couldn't make it today. A big storm blew up, a hurricane.
Right, next batch. This is staying. This is staying. That's staying. That's going in the truck. That can probably go. That can go. That can be donated. That can be donated.
Thanks, Trev.
This goes on the sander, keeping that. This can be donated. It's a little ear stapler. Probably going to have no use for that, but someone else can use that. Donate this. It's a kit that you can use to put dowels and stuff into timber work.
Yes, I don't want any dowel work.
Nope.
It's way too sophisticated for Brupeg.
The coolest router in the history of the world. That's definitely staying. Love this thing. Right, sander. We have to figure out if we're going to keep that.
That's on its last legs, but I
Okay,
think we
so-
don't keep that.
Alright, so no. I don't know. Talk about that one.
Well, hang on, you've got that other big one, haven't you? Do you need to use this one?
That one's easier to use on like plywood and stuff.
We've got,
I reckon we get rid of this. I don't think we're going to get enough use out of it.
it's not worth the space.
Are we agreed?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Alright, cool.
We've got 2 other things that can
Yep.
cut through wood, so.
And obviously the small polish is definitely coming with us.
Big storm blew up, a hurricane
say no to a set of drills, but you might want them.
I've got about 9 sets of drills now.
You have too.
Yeah. No, I'm good, but if you want a set of drills, would you like a set of drills?
Okay.
There you go. Comes with a lift
Put
case.
it on me camping.
There is a lot of stuff here.
Amazing. So we're going to have to be really tough about this. There is no room on this boat for anything that's not very usable right now, so...
Anything spring loaded in the circlip plier selection
This is my favourite.
gets through the first
Look
round.
at this.
These are just gorgeous, they're getting kept. Right. Spring loaded, anything that's spring loaded automatically has a plus.
Oh yes.
Alright, so that's a big maybe. They're big and angled, which is a yes. They don't close up super tight, so they're a possibly no. They're a 100% keepy. It's only one of them. So
Yeah, I want those ones. I'm keeping these.
They don't
They'll just disappear.
do these ones. Okay, so keep those ones. Okay, well that internal, we'll keep those. Alright, and they close right up, we'll keep those. Alright, that's the final keepy selection.
Alright.
Because we can't tell what material it is, there's too much risk to put these into something because it may just break down. And it's not an expensive part, so I think for now we'll just leave them.
Why none of these?
These are air operated screwdrivers, and we have battery operated ones upstairs, so in order to use them you've got to hook a compressor up, run the air lines. The agreement with Bruce was we'd fossick through it and figure out what we're going to use and what we won't use because we only have so much space, and what we don't use we're going to donate to the men's shed up here. These are bloody awesome, keyways and so on, but we don't have any ability to machine keyways on anything on Brupeg, so for us we can't actually use these.
But someone else will use them.
Someone with a lathe and a mill, 100%.
I'm going to keep those.
Yeah, yeah, they're good. These are like lugs for
We'll use them.
cables. We'll keep those. Awesome selection of cotter pins, however they're all steel, so they'll just turn into a big ball of rust on the boat. Grease nipples, copper washers.
Copper washers?
Probably use those on stuff.
Yep, I'll grab those.
These are for like pipes, fibre washers. These are like perfect for sealing in oil, so we'll keep those for engine work. Shims and spacing washers, again, just basically thicker versions, just a washer that's the same measurement, every one will be the same measurement. Definitely keeping this. This is a soldering iron. It's like a tiny little MIG spool gun, so as you pull the trigger it feeds solder out onto the tip here, so you can just like and run, you know, just like you're welding. So that's definitely getting kept. That's a membrane for making fresh water out of seawater, so we'll keep that. I don't know if we'll ever use it, but
Water maker part.
water maker part.
Definitely keeping the clutch.
Yeah, definitely keep these. A couple of spare grinding discs for the small grinder.
Just a couple.
Couple of nibblers. These are tin snips, so like shears. You can like cut shears, and then a hole punch and a little folder. Right, so we've got a set of donated pipe spanners. These things are awesome, and I've been keeping them in good condition until I can put them in the engine room. Now is the time. We've got our trusty skill saw. We've got a blimmin' awesome clamp-on ammeter, and it's a multimeter with other functions. Awesome stuff. Our router set, our Dremel, our what's-macaulay, Riveter machine, some extension cables. We've got our big pipe pliers and a whole bunch of hand tools, a vise that Dennis gave us. We've got a punch set. We've got these things for wood. So that's a set of internal micrometers used for figuring out sizes of holes for like engines and stuff. These are my, I don't have a place for them, drill kit. Generally big stuff. This is my big tap and die set, so it goes up to, I think it's 24mm. It's all metric, but 24mm. And then we have a stainless steel oxygen tank out of a plane. This was donated by Bruce as well, so I have no idea what we're going to use that for. We got it just in case something comes to mind. Something has not come to mind yet.
Something has to come to mind because we want it.
It's pretty awesome.
It is amazing.
For us to make it through the night, stormy weather.
These are some more goodies. So O-rings galore. these are self-lubricating bronze bushers, so we will be keeping these because we use them for things like random hinges and bearings and so on. So awesome. There's also a set of internal micrometers, so you put this is your adjusty piece, and then you can plug in different lengths to basically measure essentially internal diameters, so ID of like pipes and cylinders and shafts. So you use these if you're rebuilding an engine. You can check things like cylinder wear and things like that. So these are called T-clamps. They're basically a hose clamp that is awesome. So you can kind of see they can't really strip because they're just basically a bolt and a nut that tightens up, and on the inside edge, so on this edge here and on that edge there, they sort of flare out ever so slightly, so they don't crimp a pipe, they just gently tighten it up without sort of cutting into it.
Look at that. Amazing.
Beautiful. So part of there is some method to the madness with the white engine room. One of the thoughts, so obviously everybody looks at it and goes, what are you doing? Like, paint it black under the motor, or paint it grey or something.
It is grey or something, yeah.
But there's a reason why. Oh, yeah.
I know why.
Why?
If a hose ruptures or something froze oil, you got first sight of knowing it's happening.
Yeah, it's just an early warning system, basically.
On the submarine, everything was painted white. They have to go back there every 15 minutes and look for sand because the shaft is full of sand.
Right.
If you see sand in that white area, everybody can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know, when we're on the water, I'll probably actually just start repainting bits of that room anyway, just to keep it like the dentist surgery it needs to be.
Drawers and everything are going to be perfect, aren't they?
Yeah. I want everything spotless, like just absolute.
Before this night is over, I will guide you home. All this time you thought we'd never pay the price.
This piece of plastic, white plastic pipe that you can see running along under the boat, under the propeller just here, that thing has been in our way for about maybe 4 years. For some reason it was under the bench, and rather than move it, we just thought it's all good, we'll just put the bench over top of it. And we could never get it out from that point on. There was pieces of steel welded at both ends and we had weight on top of it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting rid of this. This is a bin of potentially useful stainless stuff that I've been kind of accumulating over the years. It's time to finally go through it.
I'm a clever man. We didn't want to have any tape on this because we might not be able to get it off and we need to use this. So he's put it inside out and then the top layer goes over.
Pull it as tight as you can. That one. Maybe a couple of times on there.
Of hydraulics and plumbing. There's some big bolts looks like under there.
So these are exhaust mounts that I'm using for like generator exhausts and stuff, like smaller exhausts.
So this is a later. You can put this away in the engine room.
Yeah, everything's to be kept, but it can be buried. You know what? I don't need any of those
I
actually.
don't see the originals.
I think these came off some of the deck pump work. This is a little outboard that was given to us by Ron, one of the locals here. Needs a bit of work, so it's got like a broken gearbox shifter. This bracket, the mounting bracket, this one here is snapped off, so it needs either a new mounting bracket or a piers of some sort. And it needs a prop, that was the other thing. But other than that, apparently it works fine and is in relatively newish condition.
Thanks,
so
Ron.
That's something that yeah, really awesome. Thanks, Ron. That's something that we're kind of keen to just have a play with, but we're probably going to hand it over to an expert to just let them stew on it for a bit.
Look, that would work.
When you have
We need a soap dish in the bathroom.
so one block of soap per year.
Yeah, that's
per
right.
boat. Everybody has an allocated portion. When you make the soap, because it has to be custom obviously, you have lines in it. Everybody's just allowed to rub. Yeah, you're just allowed to rub your face on one segment.
So that's it. You know, that's pretty much the metal that we're keeping.
There's no real scrap in there anymore because everything piece of metal was allocated.
I know. And this rubber here, this is what we found at the scrapyard for the anchor room ensuite up the front.
Anchoring ensuite.
We're going to cut this up and attach it to the walls in the hopes that when the chain's moving around when we're going through the ocean, it's banging into this and not taking paint off the walls and making a lot of noise. But we have yet to check whether it actually works as a plan. But what we have to do is we have to actually size that room and cut out the shapes, and then we'll put it down there for storage, and we'll do that in the water. So, but we can't take all of it, it's too heavy.
So a few parts in here. So these are big rolls of rope. This was something that we found at a tender site, an auction site. We put in a stupid bid and managed to get a bunch of rope, which is what we need for the rear of each corner on Brupeg. We need a big coil of rope so that we can tie it up to trees or wharfs or things along those lines. So we have to make some rope coilers. That's coming up soon once we're in the water, and this is the rope that we're going to be using. We also have these blue bag filters over the back here, so that's what we use to filter our veggie oil down to 1 micron, a couple of those in a series. There's a link in the corner for the video that shows how that actually works. But they have to be cleaned out and stored. Probably going to be storing those in a clean state in the engine room.
In the meantime, we're going to store these in the anchor room at the front where the chain is.
So you're the fire, you're the flare, you're the song inside my head. and I will taste every note. Feels so good when you're in my head. And you're the fire, you're the flare, you're the song inside my head.
Might just throw one more. Okay, done. Just tip it out onto it. I'll cut you a little length of this and you can just throw it through as a hook. You know what I mean, eh?
Yep, yep.
Too loose on this. You just push it through.
Oh, beautiful. So good when you're in my head. So I've been stuck forever. It seems like forever. I'm ready to fire the signal. Pick me up and say, come on, pick me up.
Need more rope? You're right.
The strop come loose, so I'm just having to make it.
Ah, 3 days. Yeah.
One of the challenges on Brupeg is keeping the maintenance up as high as we can. We have drums of oil that we use for various engines, gearboxes, that sort of thing, and they never come in the same uniform size. In this case I have two that are pretty similar, but oftentimes they're different square shapes or whatever. I can't really be bothered trying to accommodate that in the engine room, so what I'm going to do is transfer them into a uniform shape. So I went and bought a couple of these drums, and then I put a custom label on them. So we're going to use these to store all of our fluids so that we can maintain the boat.
Damien described his vision for the engine room, dental surgery, everything in its place, everything perfect, white floor. Oh my god, it's going to look amazing, but I'm backing out of any maintenance or organisational responsibilities. It's too much work. We were just talking about I can't lift heavy things, and we thought we should explain anyone who hasn't been following or had missed it or whatever. I have a connective tissue disorder, and that includes the blood vessels. So I have an issue with the valves going into the heart. So if I lift something, it causes them to not work properly, and can be quite dangerous. But it's also very painful. So So poor Dame has to lift everything pretty much. I can lift small things. Bending over is difficult because I have heart issues, and lifting, doing anything above my head is difficult. But you know, we work around it, but it is kind of frustrating when you're trying to build a boat, not being able to lift anything really limits what you can contribute. So you may be wondering why there's a little pile of mess over here. This box here is full of work clothes. We usually get them from second-hand shops, but it can come from anywhere. So that's to keep it dry. All of these other things are projects on the move. So this is version 2 of the 4-wheel drive wheelchair that Dame built me. He's doing a smaller, more compact and structurally more sound version, because I'll be in and out of a chair. We want to be able to keep going places, so that's what that is. But you should know that being like getting out of here alive. Mutiny, I cry, I'm bleeding with a sword. I tie him up in my union jacket, throw him overboard. He's gonna come because I care for what they say. With fire inside, it goes up on the waves. Oh, listening boys, 'cause this is...
There's still a bit of chaos over on this side of the engine room. We've got to load the tools into the red toolbox. And you can see our oil storage for now is just chucked on the ground. But we need to build a shelf under here where these are going to stack up. It's going to be hard up against the wall. Mainly because they're big and bulky and we don't have to access them very often, so that's a great place to put them. They're not going to be in the way of our feet when we stack them up. We'll get rid of these tools that are in random buckets, put them into the red toolbox as well. Beside the bench, just here, between the bench and the emergency genset, we're going to be building a storage rack in here, so a lot of our gear is going to be stored beside the workbench, and that's the reason why we didn't bother putting the vise on this side. We knew that that was going to be built in there. We have quite a few boxes just sort of stacked around the back end of the boat. You kind of see epoxy and all sorts of stuff, fuel containers, and then as we go out, we've still got quite a lot of stuff on this side of the engine room to tidy away. This is not the final location, but it gives you an idea. We're definitely getting there in terms of our storage. Out the back, it's looking lovely and clean. Plasma cutter for some jobs that we've got coming up, and a collection of random jobs that are yet to be finished. So once we get those done, this back deck is going to be lovely and clean. One thing we thought we'd have to do in this engine room before we launch is get holding tanks sorted. That's not something that we need to bother with now. The holding tanks we were going to use were temporary. They were stainless, which is no good for holding tanks. It rots out eventually. Ideally you want plastic or fiberglass holding tanks, and long story short, we've already priced up plastic. It's not going to happen. They're about $1,500 each. We need 2 of them, so that's not going to happen. We're going to build them out of fiberglass. We can probably make them for a few $100 each. What we are going to do though is modify where we thought we were going to put them. Originally we were going to put them vertical, so up beside the generator here, this is the little Kubota generator here. We were going to lay them vertical in this area here, and with like one on either side, so it's, you know, even for balance and so on. The reason we're not going to put them there is actually because of the fall needed. So between the toilet and the top of the tank, we need to have a little bit of a drop in the pipe so that it doesn't block up and eventually works its way all the way down to the tank. With vertical tanks, that's really difficult to achieve. We don't have a lot of drop, and it's quite a distance between where I am in the engine room, just here, and the toilet, which is sort of through that bulkhead over there, forward maybe 2.5 meters, something like that. So it's probably, I don't know, a good 6 meters between the tank and the toilet in that direction there, and that drop, not going to be much. We want to probably have a good, you know, I don't know, 6 inches of drop over that distance as a minimum. We have figured a way that we can achieve this with a different design. What we're going to do is lay the tanks down. In this area of the engine bay, we're going to build the tanks flat, so it'll be literally a flat surface running across there with the tank filling up the void underneath. One on that side, one on this side here. The reason we're going to do that is because it allows us still full access to the hatches, and we're also able to still access all of our fuel tank controls and so on. It turns this end of the engine room into a usable space too, so it means that we're going to be able to have storage where at the moment we don't. It's a bit awkward, it's an angled floor and it's pretty difficult to stack things in there. So by modifying it in this way, we're going to have essentially using a space that we can't really use for anything else, and we're going to make it into something that's worthwhile.